They said you were getting old, but what if that was never the plan? Welcome, beloved chosen ones. There's something they don't want you to know, something so powerful, so undeniable that when people look at you now, they can't explain what they're seeing. And tonight, that mystery is about to be revealed. This is not a coincidence that you're here. This is not random that these words are reaching your spirit right now, because what I'm about to tell you has been hidden from the masses for generations. The enemy has worked overtime to keep this truth buried, to keep you believing their lies about time, about age, about your purpose growing dim. But God has other plans. You see, while the world has been teaching you to fear the mirror, to apologize for the years, to fade quietly into the background, something supernatural has been happening to you. And those around you, they've noticed. They whisper about it. They stare. They can't put their finger on it. But there's something about you that defies everything they thought they knew about growing older. What if I told you that every attack on your confidence, every whisper that your best days are behind you, every attempt to make you invisible, was actually the enemy's desperate attempt to hide what God was doing in you, not to you? Before we go any further, I want to honor every single soul who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and plant whatever seed the Lord places on your heart. This is about kingdom work, not profit. But here's what the darkness never saw coming. They thought age would weaken you. They thought time would diminish your light. They counted on you accepting the lie that your greatest days were in your rearview mirror. But chosen one, what if everything they told you about aging, about time, about your season being over, was a lie designed to keep you from discovering the most dangerous truth of all? You haven't been getting older. You've been getting more dangerous. And what happened next made the darkness tremble. Let's begin. They stare at you like you're a glitch in the matrix, like something's wrong with their vision, not right with yours. Listen to me, chosen one. While your old classmates are scheduling their third facelift and complaining about arthritis, you walk into that room and time itself seems confused. They're doing the math in their heads, counting backwards, whispering to each other when they think you can't hear. How old did she say she was? That can't be right. And you know what's happening in that moment. You're watching people confront the impossible, because what they're seeing doesn't compute with everything they've been taught about aging, about time, about what suffering is supposed to do to a human body. They think it's your skincare routine. They ask about your diet, your supplements, your plastic surgeon. Some even wonder if you're lying about your age. But chosen one, what they're really looking at is something that can't be bought at Sephora or injected at a clinic. What they're witnessing is the supernatural result of spiritual alignment. You see, while the world was teaching people to fight aging from the outside in, you discovered something that the beauty industry prays you never figure out. You learn to heal from the inside out. And when the Holy Spirit starts doing cellular reconstruction work, beloved, it doesn't ask permission from your birth certificate. You didn't reverse aging through vanity. You reversed decay through divinity. Let me tell you what really happened to you. When everyone else was running from their pain, medicating their trauma, and covering their scars with concealer, you made a choice that changed everything. You decided to face the fire. You walked straight into the valley of the shadow of death, and you refused to set up camp there. While others were storing bitterness in their bones, you were processing grief. While they were holding grudges that hardened their hearts and tightened their faces, you were practicing forgiveness that literally rewired your nervous system. While they were carrying stress that carved lines deeper than time ever could, you were learning to cast your anxieties on the one who created time itself. And here's what the enemy never saw coming. Every tear you cried in secret became hydration for your soul. Every prayer you whispered in the darkness became light therapy for your spirit. Every moment you chose to trust God instead of trust fear became a fountain of youth that no dermatologist could replicate. Your body started getting different signals. Instead of "we're under attack," your cells began receiving messages that said "we're safe now." Instead of "hold on to everything," your system learned "let it go and let God restore." Instead of surviving, you started thriving. And thriving, beloved, looks different on the face than merely existing. They call it good genes. You know it's good God. You didn't buy time. You broke it. You stepped outside the normal rules of decay because you stepped inside the presence of the one who spoke time into existence. While the world ages on a clock of worry, you learned to age on heaven's timeline. where every ending is a new beginning, where every loss becomes a lesson, where every scar becomes a testimony written in living flesh. This is why people can't stop staring. What they're seeing isn't just good for your age. What they're seeing is someone who has discovered that the fountain of youth isn't a place you visit. It's a presence you carry. You didn't escape the storms, chosen one. You learned to dance in the rain until the rain itself became blessing. You didn't avoid the valleys. You walked through them until your feet found springs of living water. You didn't run from the fire. You stood in it until it became the very thing that refined you into gold. And now your face tells a story that confuses the world, because they expected trauma to leave you looking traumatized. They expected betrayal to leave you looking bitter. They expected loss to leave you looking lost. They expected your age to leave you looking old. But trauma taught you resilience, and resilience has a glow. Betrayal taught you discernment, and discernment has a radiance. Loss taught you what truly matters, and purpose has a shine that no highlighter can mimic. Your glow isn't makeup, beloved. It's the literal reflection of a soul that chose healing over hardening, growth over grudges, alignment over resentment. While they were aging in the flesh, you were growing in the spirit. And when the spirit is young, the body follows. This is why they whisper. This is why they stare. This is why they can't figure you out. You're not just well-preserved, chosen one. You're well-blessed. You're not just aging gracefully. You're aging powerfully. You're not just looking good for your age. You're looking anointed for your assignment. Your glow is a divine side effect of surviving what should have killed you. And the most beautiful part? This is just the beginning. Because when God starts the restoration process, beloved, He doesn't just stop the clock. He rewinds it with purpose. Every year forward becomes a year deeper into your calling, your beauty, your power. Let them keep staring. Let them keep wondering. Let them keep asking for your secret. Because what they're really asking for is your God. And that, beloved chosen one, is a conversation worth having. They expected you to carry the scars forever. They thought pain would carve itself into your face, etch itself into your posture, and live in your eyes like a permanent resident. But when they look at you now, something doesn't add up. You don't look like what you survived. See, most people wear their trauma like war paint. You can see it in the way they hold their shoulders, tight and defensive. You can hear it in their voice, sharp and guarded. You can feel it in their presence, heavy with unprocessed grief. The world taught them that surviving means carrying the evidence, that healing means learning to live with the weight. But you, chosen one, you did something different, something they didn't expect, something that confused the darkness and frustrated every scheme designed to keep you broken. You didn't hide the pain, you healed it. While others buried their hurt beneath layers of bitterness and resentment, you did the unthinkable. You faced it, you felt it. You let it move through you like a storm that knows it cannot stay. And when the winds died down, when the thunder stopped, when the last tear fell, you stood there lighter. Not because the pain wasn't real, not because the betrayal didn't cut deep, but because you understood something the world refuses to accept. Bitterness bruises the body, but release restores the radiance. They don't teach this in therapy sessions. They don't preach this in self-help seminars. But heaven knows this truth. Emotional alchemy is real, and you, beloved, you are living proof. You grieved in the secret places. You wept behind closed doors where no one could see, no one could judge, no one could tell you to get over it faster. You honored your pain without making it your permanent address. You felt every ounce of that betrayal, that abandonment, that rejection, and then you did the most dangerous thing a chosen one can do. You let it go. Not because you were weak, because you were wise. Not because you forgot, because you forgave. Not because it didn't matter, because you mattered more. And your body felt it. Your cells responded. Your spirit exhaled. What others call a skincare miracle is actually emotional freedom manifesting in your flesh. What they can't understand is that when the soul finds peace, the body follows suit. You metabolized grief and turned it into light. You took every ounce of poison they tried to feed you and transformed it into medicine. That's why when people look at you now, they're seeing something they can't explain. They're witnessing the impossible, someone who walked through hell and came out glowing. You don't carry the weight in your jaw anymore. You don't hold the tension in your shoulders. You don't wear the pain in your eyes. Not because you're in denial, but because you're in recovery. Not because you're pretending, but because you're healing. The darkness counted on you carrying their damage forever. They needed you to be a walking advertisement for their power, a living testimony to their ability to destroy. But you refused to give them that victory. You didn't become bitter, you became better. And now, when the world looks at you, they're forced to confront a truth that terrifies every demon in hell. Trauma doesn't have to be permanent. Pain doesn't have to be your prison. And the chosen ones. The chosen ones don't just survive. They shine. They thought you'd chase their approval forever. They were wrong. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the music stops. Not the world's music that keeps playing, loud and demanding as ever, but your music. The song you've been dancing to for decades, trying to keep pace with a rhythm that was never yours to begin with. And when you finally stopped moving to their beat, that's when everything changed. You see, beloved, the Matrix can only age what agrees to perform for it. And you walked off their stage. While the world was teaching you to hustle harder, climb faster, shine brighter, you made a choice that shocked even heaven. You chose silence over noise, solitude over crowds, peace over performance. They called it giving up. God called it coming home. You stopped attending those parties that left you emptier than when you arrived. You quit those conversations that fed on gossip and left your spirit starving. You walked away from relationships that demanded you shrink just so they could feel bigger. And with every no you whispered, with every door you gently closed, something supernatural began to happen. Time loosened its grip on your soul. See, they've got it backwards, chosen one. They think youth comes from chasing, from running, from never stopping long enough to catch your breath. But you discovered the secret they'll never understand. True vitality comes from knowing when to be still, when to stop performing, when to let the world spin without you pushing it. You're not on their timeline, you're on heaven's blueprint. While they burned themselves out trying to be seen, you learned the power of being invisible to the right people and radiant to the ones who mattered. While they exhausted themselves proving their worth, you quietly became priceless. While they aged trying to keep up with a game that was rigged from the start, you ascended by slowing down. That peace you fought so hard to protect, it didn't just calm your mind, it rewrote your biology. Your cells stopped vibrating in chaos and started humming in harmony. Your skin stopped wearing the stress of performance and started glowing with the freedom of authenticity. Your eyes stopped searching for validation and started reflecting the deep knowing that you were already enough. They can't understand how you look so rested when you've been through so much, how you move with such grace when life tried to break your stride, how you carry such light when darkness surrounded you for seasons. But here's what they'll never grasp. You didn't just survive the storm. You learned to dance in the rain while they ran for cover. The world promised you everything if you'd just keep dancing to their music. Keep smiling through the pain. Keep shrinking to fit their boxes. Keep performing until your last breath. But you heard a different voice. A voice that whispered, "Come away with me. Rest. Be still. Let me show you who you really are when no one's watching." And in that stillness, in that sacred silence, you didn't just find yourself, you found timelessness. They aged in the spotlight, desperate for applause that never satisfied. You bloomed in the shadows, watered by tears only heaven counted. They grew older trying to stay young. You grew younger by growing wise. That's the secret they're staring at when they look at you now, chosen one. You're not just a person who refused to perform. You're living proof that the Matrix only has power over those who agree to play its game. You stopped performing. And time let go of you. They thought your glow would fade. It was just warming up. You know what they said, don't you? That your best days were behind you. That after a certain age, it's all downhill from there. The world had written your script for you. Peak in your 20s, start fading in your 30s, become invisible by your 40s and beyond. They had it all mapped out. Every decline, every surrender, every quiet retreat into the shadows. But you, chosen one, you didn't read their script. While your classmates were complaining about creaking joints and lost dreams, you were walking into rooms with a presence that made conversations stop. Not because you demanded attention, but because authority announced itself. Your 50s didn't dim your light, they focused it like a laser. Your 60s didn't slow your step, they gave it weight, purpose, the kind of gravity that comes from surviving storms that would have broken lesser souls. They expected decline. You gave them ascension. See, they misunderstood the assignment. They thought aging was about subtraction, losing energy, losing relevance, losing the fire that once burned bright in your belly. But God doesn't work with their mathematics. In His kingdom, the older the wine, the richer the taste, the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree. The longer the journey, the more profound the wisdom. You didn't peak. You bloomed. Every year they counted against you became another layer of unshakable strength. That confidence they're seeing, it wasn't painted on with makeup or sculpted in a gym. It was forged in the furnace of experience, tempered by trials that taught you who you really are when everything else is stripped away. Your voice carries more weight now because it's been tested by fire and found genuine. Your walk has more purpose because you've learned to stop wasting steps on paths that lead nowhere. They're staring because they've never seen someone rewrite the rules of time itself. While they were busy chasing youth like it was the only currency that mattered, you discovered something they couldn't buy, bottle, or fake: the devastating beauty of a soul that has found its center. You stopped apologizing for taking up space and started commanding it. You quit shrinking to make others comfortable and started expanding into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. Your presence doesn't just enter a room anymore, it transforms it. What they're witnessing isn't just good genes or lucky genetics. It's the physical manifestation of a spirit that refused to surrender to their timeline. Every laugh line around your eyes tells a story of joy chosen over bitterness. Every silver strand in your hair is a medal of honor, proof that you survived battles they couldn't even imagine. Your skin doesn't just glow, it radiates the peace of someone who stopped fighting wars that weren't theirs to win. You became the blueprint they never knew they needed. Now they're studying you, trying to decode your secret, desperate to understand how someone your age could carry such magnetic energy. They're searching for the product, the procedure, the program that created this phenomenon, walking among them. But what they can't comprehend is that your transformation didn't happen in a spa or a surgeon's office. It happened in the secret place, where you wrestled with angels and emerged blessed. You didn't just age gracefully, you aged dangerously. Dangerous to every lie they told about your expiration date. Dangerous to every assumption they made about your diminishing returns. You're walking proof that their system was built on quicksand, that their rules were written by people who never discovered what you've learned. God doesn't let his chosen fade, he lets them unfold. And you, beloved, you are unfolding magnificently. They mistook your silence for irrelevance. But God was aging you in stillness, not decay. While the world was racing toward spotlights and social media fame, you were somewhere else entirely, hidden, tucked away in what felt like the forgotten corners of existence. And oh, how it stung when you watched others half your age getting the recognition, the opportunities, the platforms you felt you deserved. You wondered if God had forgotten your address, lost your file, misplaced your destiny. But what you couldn't see from the valley was the view from heaven's throne room. Every season of silence wasn't punishment, it was preservation. Every moment of feeling invisible wasn't abandonment, it was divine protection. You see, chosen one, fame corrupts what isn't ready for it. Attention destroys what hasn't been purified. And God knew something about you that you didn't know about yourself. You were too precious to be exposed too early. They mistook your absence from the stage for irrelevance. But you weren't absent, you were incubating. While others were building their kingdoms on applause and approval, you were being built in the secret place. While they were chasing trends that would fade in months, you were being shaped by truths that would last for eternities. The spotlight would have poisoned what God was preparing in you. The early fame would have corrupted the very purpose he was cultivating. You weren't delayed. You were protected. Think about it. Those years when you felt forgotten, when doors slammed in your face, when opportunities passed you by like strangers on a street. What if those weren't rejections? What if they were divine interventions? What if God was saying, "Not yet, beloved. Not until you're strong enough to carry this without it destroying you." The cocoon feels like a tomb until you realize it's where the transformation happens. You spent decades wondering why you couldn't break through, why success seemed to elude you like smoke through your fingers. But now, look at you. Look at what emerged from that seeming emptiness. You didn't just survive those hidden seasons. You were refined by them, purified, strengthened. While others burned bright and burned out fast, you were learning how to glow from the inside. Your face doesn't just look young, it looks untainted, uncorrupted, uncompromised. That's what preservation does. It keeps the essence pure while time passes. You aged without the bitterness that comes from premature exposure. You grew without the cynicism that early fame breeds. You matured without the hardness that spotlight scrutiny creates. God aged you like fine wine in the darkness of his cellar, not like fruit rotting in the harsh sun of public opinion. And now, when you finally step into your season, you don't just bring talent, you bring purity of heart. You don't just bring skill, you bring sacred purpose. You don't just bring experience, you bring an unshakable foundation that can't be bought, faked, or destroyed. They thought your time had passed. They had no idea your time was just beginning. The beauty they see in you now isn't just physical, it's spiritual. It's the glow of someone who was hidden with Christ in God, protected from the contamination of a world that worships what it destroys. Your youth isn't cosmetic, it's consecrated. Your glow isn't from products, it's from being preserved in the secret place until your character could match your calling. You weren't forgotten, you were favored. And now, when the world finally sees you, they're not just looking at someone who aged well, they're looking at someone who was aged by the Master's hand, shaped in silence, perfected in the hidden place, prepared for a purpose that required this exact preparation. Your season of hiddenness is over, but what it produced in you, that's eternal. You used to walk around tired for no reason, not just sleepy drained, like your life force was being siphoned off in secret, drop by precious drop, and it was. Because you were surrounded by people who didn't come to love you, they came to feed off you. They needed your light, your attention, your empathy, your constant availability. They weren't trying to grow with you, they were trying to survive through you. And for the longest time, you let them, not out of weakness, but out of loyalty, out of heart. You thought it was love, but it was actually leakage. Listen to me, chosen one. There's a difference between caring for someone and being consumed by them. There's a difference between helping and being harvested. And those energy vampires? They had you convinced that bleeding yourself dry was what good Christians do. They twisted your compassion into their commodity. You remember those phone calls that left you exhausted? Those conversations that somehow always became about their crisis, their drama, their emergency? You'd hang up feeling like you'd been hit by a truck, but you couldn't explain why. That's because they weren't calling for advice, they were calling to drain your spiritual battery. Your nervous system was always in overdrive, trying to sense their moods, fix their chaos, walk on eggshells around their dysfunction. That stress ages people fast, real fast. But you didn't know you were aging prematurely because you were too busy trying to save people who had no intention of being saved. And then came the moment that changed everything. You cut the cord. When you finally said enough, your body felt it before your mind did. You slept deeper, your face softened, your glow came back. Because those energy parasites weren't just messing with your spirit, they were slowly draining your physical vitality. Every demand, every guilt trip, every manufactured crisis was stealing years from your life. But when you detached, your whole system exhaled for the first time in years, and the result was undeniable. You started looking like yourself again. Not the version of you who was overextending, overgiving, and constantly rescuing people who had no intention of changing. Your skin looked clearer. Your eyes became sharper. You weren't surviving anymore. You were reclaiming. Because when you stopped feeding everyone else's demons, you finally had the energy to nourish your own soul. That's why you look different now. That's why people are shocked when they see you. You're not being used anymore. Your energy is yours again, and it's showing. The same people who once fed off you are now wondering what happened. How did you get so radiant, so rested, so magnetic? The truth? You didn't just change your circle, you closed the buffet. They didn't love you, they fed off you. But the buffet is closed. Your glow came back the moment you stopped rescuing demons in disguise. And now you shine like someone who knows the difference between supporting others and sacrificing yourself. And heaven is applauding. They're doing the math and it's not adding up. You walk into a room and they start calculating, checking your birth year against what their eyes are telling them, squinting at your skin like it's holding secrets, whispering behind your back because your presence just broke their understanding of how time is supposed to work. They're confused, chosen one, because you're not playing by the rules they know. But here's what they don't understand. What you carry isn't cosmetics. It's not good genes or expensive treatments. It's something they can't buy, can't fake, and can't comprehend. You're aging on a frequency they've never encountered. While they're counting years, you're counting victories. While they're measuring time, you're measuring transformation. Your face isn't just beautiful, it's prophetic. Every line that should be there isn't. Every mark that should show your battles has been transformed into radiance instead. They expected wear and tear, but they're looking at refinement. They anticipated breakdown, but they're witnessing breakthrough. You didn't just survive the storms that should have aged you. You emerged from them glowing like you've been kissed by eternity itself. When your spirit outruns time, your body follows suit. That's the frequency they can't decode. While they're trapped in chronological thinking, you've been operating in Kairos time, divine timing, kingdom timing, the kind of time that doesn't subtract from you but adds to your glory. Every year that passes doesn't diminish you. It reveals more of who you were always meant to be. You're not getting older, beloved. You're getting unveiled. They whisper because they can't explain what they're seeing. How someone who's walked through fire doesn't smell like smoke. How someone who's been through hell doesn't look like they've been through anything at all. They're searching for the secret, but the secret isn't in what you use on your skin. It's in what flows through your spirit. You didn't defy age. You transcended it. While they've been fighting time like it's their enemy, you made peace with it. You stopped performing for a world that worships youth and started aligning with eternity that honors wisdom. You quit chasing their fountain of youth because you found the well of living water. And that well, chosen one, it doesn't just sustain you, it transforms you from the inside out. Every year adds purpose instead of wrinkles. Every season brings clarity instead of confusion. You're not on their clock anymore. You're on the throne, operating from a realm where beauty doesn't fade because it's rooted in something that never dies, your soul. They can stare all they want. They can whisper all they need to. Because what they're looking at isn't just a person who's aged gracefully. They're looking at someone who's aged divinely. Someone who's learned the secret that time isn't your master when eternity is your home. You're not just defying their expectations, beloved. You're redefining what's possible when someone chooses to age by ascension instead of deterioration. When someone decides to let every year be a promotion instead of a demotion. When someone discovers that the fountain of youth was never outside them, it was always within them. And that frequency, that divine frequency you're operating on, that's what has them shook. Because in a world obsessed with fighting time, you learned how to dance with it instead. You are not aging. You are unfolding into glory. They thought time would erase you, but heaven used it to announce you. And now, chosen one, every room you enter becomes a sanctuary whether they want it to be or not. Your presence doesn't ask for permission to reveal truth. It simply does. You walk into spaces and something shifts in the atmosphere, not because you're trying to make a statement, but because you've become one. Your face carries the testimony of someone who went through hell and came back holding heaven's hand. That's not vanity talking. That's victory walking. See, what they're staring at isn't just your physical appearance. They're witnessing the impossible made visible. You're living proof that darkness doesn't get the final word. That trauma doesn't get to write the ending. That time, when surrendered to the divine, becomes a sculptor instead of a destroyer. Your glow is a rebuke to every lie they've been told about what survival looks like. They expected you to be bitter, broken, bearing the weight of your battles like chains around your neck. Instead, you're radiant. Instead, you're free. Instead, you're standing in a peace so profound it makes their chaos feel unbearable by comparison. You didn't just survive the storms, beloved. You let them wash you clean. While others collected scars like trophies, you collected wisdom like jewels. While they hardened under pressure, you softened into grace. While they aged through resentment, you matured through reverence. This is why they can't stop looking. Your countenance preaches sermons their spirits desperately need to hear. When they see you, they see what's possible. They see what it looks like when someone refuses to let bitterness poison their bloodstream. They see what happens when forgiveness becomes your fountain of youth. Beloved chosen ones, let me leave you with this truth that I need you to carry deep in your heart. You are not getting older. You are getting revealed. Every year that passes isn't taking something away from you. It's unveiling who you were always meant to be. The radiance people see when they look at you isn't an accident. It's the signature of a life that has been touched by heaven and transformed by grace. Remember this, your appearance, your energy, your very presence is a testimony. When the world told you to fade, you chose to shine. When they said your best days were behind you, God was preparing your greatest days ahead of you. The peace in your countenance, the light in your eyes, the strength in your spirit, these are not accidents of good genetics or expensive skincare. These are the fingerprints of the divine working in and through you. You are not walking this journey alone. The same God who preserved you through every storm, who kept you radiant through every trial, who sustained your beauty through every battle, that same God is with you right now. He's not finished with you yet. In fact, He's just getting started, and you are part of a community, a family of believers who understand your calling, who recognize your anointing, and who are ready to stand with you in prayer and support. I want you to ask yourself this question tonight. If God has preserved your physical radiance through all you've endured, what else might He be preserving for the days ahead? What other miracles might He be preparing to unfold through your life? Let me pray over you right now, and I want you to receive this prayer as if I'm standing right there with you, my hand on your shoulder, speaking these words directly into your spirit. Father God, I lift up every precious soul who has watched this message today. You see them, Lord. You know their journey. You know every tear they've cried, every battle they've fought, every moment they've wondered if they still mattered. But Lord, tonight we declare that they do matter. They matter to you, and they matter to this world that desperately needs their light. God, I pray that you would continue to preserve them, not just their physical appearance, but their hope, their faith, their purpose. Let them wake up tomorrow knowing that their best days are not behind them but before them. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide opportunities that showcase their wisdom, their beauty, their anointing. Lord, surround them with people who recognize their value. Protect them from those who would try to dim their light or steal their joy. Give them supernatural strength for every challenge and divine favor for every opportunity. And Father, use their radiance, use their story, use their very presence to draw others to you. Let them be the living testimony that you are still working miracles, still transforming lives, still making all things beautiful in their time. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray. Amen. I want to encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us how this message has touched your heart. Ask any questions you might have. Share your own testimony of how God has sustained you through the seasons. Your story matters, and there's someone reading these comments who needs to hear exactly what you have to say. And please, if this message has blessed you, share it with someone else who needs to hear these words. Share it with that friend who's been struggling with getting older, that family member who's lost their confidence, that neighbor who's forgotten their worth. Remind them that they are not alone and that there's a whole community here ready to pray with them and encourage them on their journey. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending this time with me today. Thank you for allowing me to speak into your life and for trusting me with your precious time. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We're building more than just a subscriber base. We're building a family, a community of believers who understand what it means to be chosen, to be called, to be radiant in a world that often tries to dim our light. Remember, beloved, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are chosen, you are loved, and your story is far from over. Stay blessed, stay beautiful, and keep shining. God bless you.